So guys, we're getting ready to start installing our XJ Uniframe Stiffeners. We're going to do the front, the center, and the rear. So this is how the box is going to arrive at your house. It's all packaged up. We're going to get it opened up and get our parts ready to go. Those guys really want to make sure it gets to your place safe. Our packaging material like crazy. This is going to be one of the center sections. The other center section. And one of our fronts. A couple of gusset plates to tie them together. And the other front. And then a whole lot more packaging materials. Make sure it gets to you guys safe and sound. We're putting on these Uniframe stiffeners, and you might ask why. Well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to try and make the body a lot more rigid. So putting that on there is going to basically, more than double the thickness of this Uniframe. So it's going to be a lot more rigid. You're going to be able to open doors and stuff better. But it's also armor. So what that's going to do is when we're taking hits here from rocks and such and logs, you're going to put dents in there. And, just like a pop can, when you do that, it crushes. We don't want your Uniframe to crush. So we're going to try and get this thing as strong as we can. Plus, it's going to give us room to tie onto a roll cage later on. We're working on installing our XJ Uniframe Stiffener set. This is going to be a really, really great thing to try and help make your vehicle a lot more durable, make it a lot more rigid, make all your doors work better, protect your investment that you're doing all this work to. So we've got all three sets here. We've got our front, our center, and our rear. And I really recommend using all three because they've each got some really, really strong reasons to put those on. The fronts and the rears, those are 10 gauge material, which is just a little over 1/8 inch thick. And the fronts, we're going to get a lot more strength, especially up at the front bumper location and the front steering gearbox location. Those are two spots that are really known to be weak on these XJs. So reinforcing those spots is really going to help to keep everything tight and not moving for you. You get into the center sections. Now this is going to help to add a lot of stiffness and rigidity to the vehicle, but it's also going to act like armor. So this is going to be what's going to protect that Uniframe from putting dents in it and basically giving that whole pop can effect where it's going to want to crush. But it's also where all of your suspension's mounting there. Your front suspension cross member, your rear suspension cross member, really, really want that extra strength in there. You get back into the rear, and you're going to stiffen up the whole thing. You're going to make it a lot stronger, but especially in the back. In the back behind the tire, especially in the northern climates where you're getting a lot of salt, you get a lot of rust in there. This is going to make that area a lot stronger. But this is where your hitch is mounted. This is where recovery gear is mounted, skid plates, and rear bumpers. So you really want to make this strong. That's what's going to help to keep your vehicle safe and make you have a whole lot more fun out there on the trail. So we're working on our front stiffener section. And what we're going to be doing this with a 3-link long arm. So we're actually going to be cutting off these lower control arm mounts. But if you're running some type of short arm or something that still utilizes that mount, you're going to come in here and you're just going to cut off right about on this edge here. And that way, that's the portion where this bracket would sit. But we'll cut it off. We'll kind of get that all lined up in there, get it all clamped into place, and then we'll tack it up and get ready to weld. We got the control arm mounts cut off, so we're ready to start putting on our front section of the Uniframe stiffeners. Look at this. I did a really, really good job getting that all cleaned up real nice. Or somebody did. But anyways, we're going to get this thing mocked up into place. We've got a big gap here, so what we'll do is we'll just kind of draw that under the clamp. We've got the front uniframe stiffener in place. You'll see we've got just a pile of clamps on here. What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different clamps. A little bit crazy, but we really wanted to make sure this is tight and located properly. So if you look, we've got everything clamped up really tight. All of our gaps are right butt tight next to the uniframe. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose one of our magic Sharpies. Normally we use the silver because we're working on a black chassis, but this one's paper white. So we're going to take our Sharpie and we're just going to mark every one of our spots that we've got open for plug welds. We'll be able to come in after the fact and grind all those, so that way when we come in to weld, we've got good clean metal to work with. And we'll go up and around, get the outline of this, make sure that everything's marked, and that way we can grind and do a real good job with our welds. So we're just taking off the front uniframe stiffener and getting ready to get it ground and ready for the next step. But I did want to mention one other thing. After we took the control arm mounts, you'll notice there's quite a bit of rust underneath here, and we'll even see it more over on the passenger side, or the driver's side, excuse me. But this is another reason that we want to put these uniframe stiffeners on. This is really going to help to shore up any rust that you've got. You're going to have a lot more material in there, going to be a lot stronger and safer. So we've got this front section all cleaned up, all clamped back into place. So we're going to come in, we've got all of our edges ready to weld, all of our slots ready to weld. So we're going to put the plug welds in there. We're going to come in, tack it all right now, and be good to go. We're moving on to the center section of the stiffeners. So we're going to get this cross member taken out of the way, and we're going to start fitting up and making sure we've got it all ready to go. We're going to start fitting up the center section of the uniframe stiffener, and we've got a couple of lineup holes here. All the factory holes are in the uniframe stiffener for the cross member bolts. We've got a stud here. We're just going to use that as a nice lineup spot for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we get the stand right underneath the seam. We've kind of got this irregular shape, kind of a triangle shape here, because that way as we put pressure up on it, it's going to spread that and conform to the uniframe that's there. That way it'll be nice and tight fitting to the body. We're putting in our center section of the uniframe stiffeners right now. So we've got a bunch of jacks and a bunch of clamps. We've got a bunch of extra pressure right here in the center so that we're trying to get this tight. There's a slight jog to the frame. We're pushing that up tight. Everything's tight now to the uniframe horizontally and vertically. So we're in really good position for it. You're going to see that we've got this extra flange here that can tie into your floor pan if you want. And that's just going to give you a lot more strength, a lot of thickness to this material. And then when you get into the inside, you're going to come in, you're going to put your weld all the way through. Just make note, there's going to be some spots where it's double wall versus single wall. And that single wall can burn through pretty easy. So just take your time with welding and allow it to cool in between. So we've got our front centers all ready to go. Now we're going to come back to the rear. So we're just going to kind of start at the front of the rear section. We're going to come through, clean up any loose rust we've got, so we've got a good surface to work off of to fit it, make sure that it all fits tight. But what happens is we get back here where the trailer hitch was bolted on, and where we got that multiple layers of steel, water and salt's been getting in between there and getting us some pretty good rust here. So what we're going to do, clean all this up. We'll cut out whatever's bad, re-weld some new material in there, and then we'll put the uniframe stiffener over the top of that, so we've kind of got the ultimate in strength at that point. Now we're going to get started on the rear section of the uniframe stiffeners. So we've got a couple of contours that we've got to kind of get it to follow, plus this radius here. So we're just going to come up and push with our jacks and use some clamps, get everything maneuvered into place so it's sitting nice and tight to the uniframe. I'm just going to kind of keep clamping it and working it around so it gets nice and tight. So as we're trying to get this thing clamped into place, we're going to start in the rear where we can line up our bolt holes with the factory holes in the uniframe, and the same ones that the nut plates will go through. We're going to get that all nice and tight, sandwich tight. We're going to keep clamping and squeezing to get this to work around this little contour, and then we're just going to manually keep forming this and get that nice and tight so that that radius matches. And we've got one more gusset that'll slide in there. And again, we'll manually form that up and around this curve down there. Then it should be ready to start tack welding this thing into place. So where we've got some bolt holes, we're going to try and use that to have the bolts help clamp it tight and draw it in as we need to. Nice and tight, neat and tight. When we're getting this all fitted up and lining up our holes on the uniframe stiffener, we were just a little bit long, so we had to come in and cut a couple little relief cuts here, and then that allowed us to get the holes lined up nice and centered, and then we're just simply going to clamp that up into place, and then we'll be able to weld it from there. So we got everything all cleaned up, got it all ready to start tack welding and welding, so we're going to give it a shot, get it welded up and ready to go. So we're getting finished up on the uniframe stiffeners, and we wanted to make sure that we can get our uniframe stiffeners not just welded to the uniframe, but to the actual floor pans. So we pulled out all the carpet, pulled out the interior to make sure that we've got a good, clean, safe place to work. We don't need to worry about that carpet catching fire on us. Plus, we made a little money too. Can't beat that. So we've got them all welded in. Everything's super, super strong now. We don't need to worry about our uniframe. The vehicle's not going to flex as much. It's going to be really durable, bouncing off of racks. So we're in real good shape now. So stay tuned for our next episode and see what other stuff we've got in store for you. Thanks for watching.